The patrol vessel Radiant Promise moved slowly through the empty darkness of the outer reaches. This was a place where no ship traveled by choice. The stars here were old and dying, and the space between them was filled with radiation that could kill most living things within hours. The Coalition had marked this region as Forbidden's territory 300 years ago, and no one had questioned that decision since. Lieutenant Yuna sat at her sensor station, her large violet eyes scanning the screens with the careful attention her species was known for. The Valorians were natural observers, patient and thorough. She had served on this patrol route for 6 years and had never seen anything worth reporting. The outer reaches were dead, and dead things stayed quiet until today. A signal appeared on her screen. At first, she thought it was a ghost echo, a reflection of their own ship bouncing off some ancient debris. She adjusted her instruments and checked again. The signal remained. It was coming from deep within the Kethra Nebula, a cloud of toxic gas and shattered asteroids where nothing could survive. "Captain," Yuna said, her voice steady despite the cold feeling spreading through her chest. "I am detecting something." The bridge crew turned to look at her. Captain Deho rose from his command chair and walked to her station. He was human, one of only 3 serving on this Coalition vessel. Humans were still relatively new to the galactic community, having made first contact only 2 centuries ago. They had spread quickly since then, earning a reputation for being adaptable and stubborn in equal measure. Deho leaned over Yuna's shoulder and studied the readings. His face showed no emotion, but his jaw tightened slightly. "That is a ship signature," he said quietly. "That is impossible," replied First Officer Kren, a tall reptilian male from the Sethek worlds. "Nothing can function in the nebula. The radiation would destroy any vessel within days." "And yet there it is," Deho said. He straightened and turned to face the main view screen. "Increase magnification. Show me what we are looking at." The screen flickered and changed. The nebula filled the display, a swirling mass of purple and green gases that looked almost beautiful if you did not know how deadly it was. And there, hidden among the clouds like a predator waiting in tall grass, was a shape. A ship. It was massive, larger than anything the Coalition had built in centuries. Its hull was dark and angular, covered in strange patterns that seemed to absorb the light around them. Silence fell over the bridge. Every crew member stared at the impossible sight before them. "Send a standard identification request," Deho ordered. His voice was calm, but Yuna noticed his hands were clenched at his sides. "All Coalition frequencies." The communications officer, a small furry being named Teak, worked his console with trembling paws. "Signal sent, Captain." Awaiting response. The seconds stretched into minutes. The unknown ship did not move. It simply waited there in the poisonous clouds, watching them with whatever sensors it possessed. Then the response came. The voice that filled the bridge was human, but it was different somehow, speaking in a pattern and rhythm that felt old, like words pulled from a history book. The language was Korean, one of Earth's original tongues. Most humans spoke standard now, the common language adopted after first contact. Very few remembered the old ways of speaking, but Captain Deho remembered. His grandmother had taught him, passing down the words of their ancestors, even as the rest of humanity moved forward. He understood every word of the message, and the understanding made his blood run cold. "This is the UEF Baekdu, confirming human origin. We are equipped. Repeat, we are equipped." The bridge erupted in confused chatter. The alien crew members demanded translations, explanations. First Officer Kren was already pulling up historical records, his clawed fingers moving rapidly across his console. "USS," Kren muttered. "United Earth Fleet Ship. That designation has not been used in over 500 years. It was abandoned after the Coalition Compact was signed. The bike do, Una said softly, reading from her own screen. It was a colony ship, one of the first waves sent out during the human expansion era, carrying 10,000 colonists to establish a new world in the Perseus Arm. She paused, her violet eyes widening. It disappeared 600 years ago. All hands presumed lost. Deho stood perfectly still, staring at the screen. 600 years. That ship had been missing for 600 years, longer than humanity had been part of the coalition. Everyone aboard should have been dead for centuries. The ship itself should have been dust and scattered atoms. But there it was, alive and waiting. "Open a channel," he said. "I will speak to them directly." "Captain, I must advise caution," Kren said. "We do not know what we are dealing with. This could be a trap or some form of automated response from a derelict vessel." "It could be," Deho agreed. "But that message was not automated. There is someone alive on that ship, and they are speaking my ancestors' language." He moved to the communication station and nodded for Tick to open the channel. "Baekdu, this is Captain Deho of the Coalition patrol vessel Radiant Promise. We have received your signal. Please confirm your status and intentions." The reply came faster this time, as if whoever was speaking had been waiting for exactly this question. "Radiant Promise, this is Commander Jisoo of the Baekdu. Our status is fully operational. Our intentions are peaceful. We have been away for a very long time, Captain. We are requesting permission to return home." Home. The word hung in the air, heavy with meaning. These people, whoever they were, still thought of Earth as home after 6 centuries lost in the void. They had survived something that should have killed them, and they had come back. Deho felt something stir in his chest. It was pride, he realized. Pride in what his species could endure. Pride in the stubborn refusal to die that seemed to be written into human blood and bone. "Baekdu," he said slowly, "you are welcome to approach. We have a great many questions for you." "We expected that," Commander Jisoo replied. There was something in her voice that Deho could not quite identify. It was not sadness exactly, nor was it joy. It was the sound of someone who had seen too much and carried too many memories. "We have answers. And we have a warning. The outer reaches are not as empty as your coalition believes. Something is coming, Captain. Something hungry. We came back to tell you that the war is not over. For us, it never ended." The channel closed, and the Baekdu began to move. Slowly, like a great beast rising from slumber, it emerged from the nebula and turned toward them. Lights flickered along its hull, and Deho could see now just how massive it truly was. The Radiant Promise was like a small fish swimming beside a whale, and somewhere inside that ancient vessel, 600 years of survival waited to tell its story. The shuttle crossed the distance between the two ships in silence. Captain Deho sat near the front, watching through the small window as the Baekdu grew larger and larger until it filled his entire view. Up close, the ship was even more impressive and more terrifying than it had appeared on their sensors. The hull was covered in scars. Thousands of them. Some were long scratches that ran for hundreds of meters, as if giant claws had raked across the metal. Others were circular burns, the marks of weapons fire that had struck and been repaired. Struck and repaired over and over again. This ship had been in battle more times than Deho could count. And it was still flying. Beside him sat Admiral Thren of the Krix hegemony. The Admiral was an insectoid being, tall and thin, with 4 arms and a head covered in compound eyes that reflected the light in unsettling ways. The Krix had been the dominant military power in the coalition for over 3,000 years, and they did not like surprises. Thren had demanded to be part of this boarding party, and no one had been in a position to refuse him. "These humans of yours," Thren said, his mandibles clicking with each word, "they should not exist. No species survives 600 years in the outer reaches. The radiation alone would have destroyed their genetic material within 3 generations. And yet they answered our signal, Deho replied. They are alive. Whatever they have become, they are still human. Thren made a sound that might have been laughter. We shall see. The shuttle docked with a heavy clunk, and the airlock cycled open. Deho was the first to step through, his hand resting near his sidearm, even though he knew it would be useless if this was a trap. What he found on the other side made him freeze in place. The corridor was clean. That was the first thing he noticed. After 600 years, he had expected decay and rust and the smell of ancient air. Instead, the walls gleamed under soft lighting, and the air was fresh, almost sweet. But it was the people waiting for him that truly captured his attention. There were 5 of them, standing in a line with military precision. They wore simple gray uniforms with no decoration except for a small patch on their shoulders showing a mountain peak. They were human, clearly human, but something about them was different. They stood taller than average, their postures perfectly straight. Their eyes tracked every movement with a sharpness that reminded Deho of hunting animals. The woman at the front stepped forward. She was perhaps 40 years old by appearance, though that meant nothing when it came to space travelers. Her black hair was cut short, and her face was calm and unreadable. She moved with the easy confidence of someone who had commanded others for a very long time. Captain Deho, she said. I am Commander Jisu. Welcome aboard the Baekdu. Deho returned her bow of greeting, falling into the old customs his grandmother had taught him. Commander, you honor us with your welcome. I admit, we were not expecting to find anyone alive out here. Few expect us, Jisu replied. A small smile crossed her face, there and gone in an instant. Please follow me. I will explain what I can. She led them through the ship, and with every step, Deho's amazement grew. The Baekdu had been a colony ship, designed to carry civilians to a new world. It should have been filled with living quarters and farming equipment and the gentle machinery of peaceful expansion. Instead, it had been transformed into something else entirely. The walls were reinforced with layers of strange material that Deho did not recognize. Weapon systems had been installed in places that should have held recreational areas. The engine room, when they passed it, hummed with a deep power that made Deho's teeth vibrate. Chief Engineer Taiyang, a broad-shouldered man with graying hair, looked up from his work and nodded at them before returning to his tasks. You rebuilt everything, Admiral Thren observed. His compound eyes swept across the machinery with obvious interest. This ship is nothing like its original design. We had no choice, Jisu said. When we emerged from the wormhole, we found ourselves in a region of space controlled by beings we called the Void Hunters. They do not negotiate. They do not trade. They consume. Entire civilizations, Admiral. They eat them whole and move on to the next. She stopped at a large door and placed her hand against a sensor panel. The door slid open, revealing a command center filled with screens and holographic displays. More crew members worked at various stations. Weapons Officer Myre looked up briefly, her sharp eyes taking in the visitors before dismissing them. Navigation Specialist Hajun did not look up at all, his attention fixed on star charts that showed regions of space the Coalition had never mapped. For 600 years, Jisu continued, we fought. Every day was a battle for survival. We learned their tactics, studied their technology, adapted ourselves to match them. The people you see here are the descendants of those original colonists. We are not what we once were. What are you then? Thren demanded. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. Jisu turned to face him directly. She was shorter than the Admiral, much smaller in physical presence. But something in her gaze made Thren take a small step backward. We are what survival required us to become, she said simply. Our reflexes have been enhanced through generations of selective pressure. Our minds process information faster than baseline humans. We have integrated technology into our bodies to better interface with our ships. We did not choose these changes, Admiral. The alternative was extinction. Deho listened in silence, his mind struggling to process what he was hearing. 600 years of constant war. Generations born and raised knowing nothing but combat. Children growing up, learning to fight before they learned to read. It was horrifying and magnificent at the same time. You could have run, he said quietly. You could have found a safe place and hidden. Jizhu shook her head. The Void Hunters do not allow that. They sense life across vast distances. They are drawn to it like predators to blood. Running only delays the inevitable. We learned that lesson in our first decade. She walked to a central display and activated it. A holographic image appeared, showing a creature that made Deho's stomach turn. It was dark and twisted, with too many limbs and a body that seemed to shift and change even in the recording. Its eyes, if they could be called eyes, glowed with a hungry red light. This is what hunts in the darkness beyond your borders, Jisoo said. This is what we have been fighting since before your coalition was formed. And this is what is coming for you now. The room fell silent. Admiral Thren stared at the image, his compound eyes reflecting the red glow of the creature's gaze. For the first time since Deho had met him, the Admiral looked afraid. How many? Thren asked. His voice was barely above a whisper. We have never been able to count them all, Jisoo replied. But their vanguard is already moving toward coalition space. You have perhaps 6 months before they arrive. She turned off the display and faced them both. In her eyes, Deho could see the weight of centuries, the memories of battles fought and friends lost. But beneath that weight, there was something else. There was determination, hard as iron and twice as unyielding. We did not come back for ourselves, she said. We came back to warn you. And if you will accept our help, we came back to fight beside you. The Void Hunters have never faced a united galaxy. Perhaps together, we can show them that some prey bites back. 3 days had passed since the demonstration. The Baekdu remained stationed at the edge of coalition space, waiting for the political leaders to decide its fate. Captain Deho had stayed aboard as a liaison, officially to maintain communication between the returned humans and Coalition Command. Unofficially, he had stayed because he could not bring himself to leave. There was something about this ship and its crew that called to him. They were his people, separated by 600 years of different histories. They had faced horrors he could not imagine and had survived through sheer determination. Every time he walked through the corridors, he felt a strange mix of pride and sadness. Pride in what humanity could achieve. Sadness for what it had cost them. He found Commander Jisoo in the observation room, standing before a large window that looked out at the stars. She stood alone, her hands clasped behind her back, her reflection a ghost in the glass. May I join you? Deho asked. Jisoo nodded without turning. Please. He walked to stand beside her, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. The stars stretched out before them, countless points of light that represented worlds and civilizations the Coalition had spent centuries building. It all looked so peaceful from here. The Council is still debating, Deho said finally. Admiral Thren has been lobbying against accepting your offer of alliance. He claims your ship is too dangerous to trust. He is afraid, Jisoo replied. Not of the Void Hunters. Of us. Of what our existence means for Crick's dominance. She turned to look at him, her dark eyes unreadable. We expected this. Power does not give itself up willingly. Deho hesitated, then asked the question that had been burning in his mind since he first came aboard. Why did you really come back? After 600 years, why now? Jisoo was silent for a long moment. Then she moved to a small console and activated a holographic display. Star charts appeared, showing regions of space that Daeho had never seen on any coalition map. Vast stretches of darkness marked by small points of light, worlds that had existed and then vanished. These are the civilizations we encountered in the outer reaches, Jisoo said. 17 different species across 43 inhabited worlds. When we arrived, they were thriving cultures with art and science and dreams of a better future. She touched the console, and one by one, the lights went out. The Void Hunters consumed them all. It took decades, but the result was always the same. We fought alongside each of these peoples, trying to hold the line, trying to give them time to escape. It was never enough. The last light faded, leaving only the Baekdu's position marked on the map. We are the last, Jisoo continued. The only survivors of that entire region of space. We held them back for as long as we could, but 6 months ago, the main Void Hunter fleet broke through our final defense position. They are coming here, Captain. They have been traveling toward Coalition space since before your grandfather was born. Daeho stared at the empty map, his throat tight. Why did you not send a warning earlier? We could have prepared. We tried. Jisoo's voice held old pain. We sent messages through every method we knew. None of them reached you. The outer reaches are too far, too flooded with radiation for normal communications. The only way to deliver the warning was to come ourselves. She deactivated the display and turned to face him fully. The Void Hunters are not just a threat to the Coalition. They are a threat to all life in this galaxy. They will not stop until they have consumed everything. We came back because you are our people, Captain. Whatever else has changed, that has not. Humanity does not abandon its own. Before Daeho could respond, an alarm blared through the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridors, and crew members rushed to their stations. Jisoo moved immediately, her commander's instincts taking over. Report, she called as she strode toward the command center. Medical Officer Selman met them at the door, her face pale with urgency. She was a slender woman with gentle features, not the type who seemed built for war. But she had served on the Baekdu for 30 years, and Daeho had learned that appearances meant nothing on this ship. Commander, I intercepted a transmission, Selman said. She held out a datapad with trembling hands. It was encrypted with Crick's military codes, but our systems cracked it. You need to see this. Jisoo took the pad and read its contents. Her expression did not change, but something in her eyes went cold and hard, like ice forming over deep water. Admiral Thren, she said quietly. You've been communicating with someone outside Coalition space. Someone in the outer reaches. Daeho felt his blood run cold. That is not possible. Who could he possibly be talking to out there? Jisoo handed him the pad without a word. Daeho read the message, and each word hit him like a physical blow. The Admiral had made contact with Void Hunter scouts. He had offered them information about Coalition defenses, fleet positions, and patrol schedules. In exchange, he had asked for one thing: a guarantee that the Crick's hegemony would be spared when the invasion began. He'd betrayed everyone, Daeho breathed. His own coalition, his own allies, just to save his species. Fear makes people do terrible things, Jisoo said. The Admiral saw what our ship could do. He knows the Void Hunters are far worse. He made a calculation that many leaders have made before him. Sacrifice others to protect your own. She took back the pad and studied it again, her mind clearly working through the implications. The command center had grown quiet around them as the senior crew gathered, all of them reading the same information on their own screens. What do we do? Communications Officer Yanwu asked. He was young for his position, barely 30, but his voice was steady. If we bring this to the Coalition Council, Thren will deny everything. The Cricks control most of the military infrastructure. It would be our word against his. And while we argue politics, the Void Hunters get closer, Weapons Officer Murray added. Her hand rested on her console, fingers twitching with barely contained anger. We should destroy his ships now, before he can do any more damage. No. Jisu's voice cut through the tension like a blade. We did not survive 600 years by acting rashly. Thren has given us something valuable, even if he did not mean to. He has confirmed that the Void Hunters are close enough to receive transmissions. That means their vanguard is already within range. She turned to Navigation Specialist Heijun. How long until the main fleet arrives, based on what we know of Thren's communications? Heijun's fingers flew across his console, calculating distances and speeds. His face grew grimmer with each number. At their standard travel speed, accounting for the scout's position, the vanguard will reach Coalition border space in 3 weeks. The main fleet will follow within 2 months. 3 weeks. Deho felt the weight of those words pressing down on him. 3 weeks until everything he knew would face destruction. And the Coalition's own military leadership was working against them. Jisu looked around at her crew, at the men and women who had fought beside her through countless battles. Then she looked at Daiho, this man from a world they had left behind 6 centuries ago, who had chosen to stand with them despite barely knowing them. We cannot wait for the Coalition to decide what to do, she said. We cannot fight Crix politics while the enemy approaches. The Baekdu will do what it has always done. We will meet the threat head on, and we will show the galaxy that some of us still know how to fight. She straightened her shoulders, and in that moment, Deho saw the commander who had kept her people alive through 600 years of hell. Prepared the ship for deep space operations. We are going to hunt some hunters. The crew moved to obey without hesitation. And Deho, for the first time in his life, felt what it truly meant to be part of something larger than himself. The war was about to begin. Admiral Thren did not believe them. Deho could see it in the way the insectoid commander held himself, the dismissive clicks of his mandibles, the way his compound eyes never quite focused on Commander Jizu when she spoke. The Crixim ruled Coalition military affairs for 3,000 years. They had crushed rebellions, repelled invasions, and maintained order across 100 star systems. The idea that a single lost human ship could possess technology beyond their understanding was simply unacceptable. Words are easy, Thren said, standing in the center of the Baekdu's command center. His forearms were crossed over his chest, a posture of challenge among his people. You speak of enemies that consume civilizations and weapons that defeat them. But I have seen nothing except an old ship with unusual modifications. Show me proof, or I will recommend to the Coalition Council that this vessel be impounded and studied. The threat hung in the air. Jisu remained perfectly still, her expression unchanged. Around her, the Baekdu's crew continued their work as if the Admiral had not spoken at all. Only Weapons Officer Myray looked up, her eyes cold with something that might have been amusement. You want a demonstration, Jisu said. It was not a question. I want proof, Thren replied. My battle group consists of 3 Crix heavy cruisers. They are the finest warships in Coalition space. If your vessel is truly as capable as you claim, you will not object to a simulated combat exercise. Deho felt his heart sink. He had seen Crix cruisers in action during his training years. They were massive ships, bristling with weapons and protected by shield systems that could withstand sustained bombardment. 3 of them working together could destroy a small fleet. The Admiral was not asking for a demonstration. He was trying to humiliate these returned humans to prove that whatever they had survived in the outer reaches meant nothing compared to Crix military might. But Jisu simply nodded. We accept, Thren's mandibles spread in what passed for a smile among his kind. Excellent. We will conduct the exercise in the asteroid field beyond the nebula. Non-lethal settings on all weapons, of course. The simulation will end when one side's systems register a killing blow. He turned and walked toward the door, then paused. I suggest you prepare your crew, Commander. This will not take long. After he left, Deho turned to Jisoo. Are you certain about this? 3 Krix cruisers against 1 ship. Even a ship like this. Those are terrible odds. Jisoo's calm expression did not change. Captain, we have spent 600 years fighting creatures that make Krix cruisers look like children's toys. 3 ships will be enough to show the Admiral what he needs to see. She walked to the pilot's station where a young woman sat, her hands resting lightly on the control interface. This was Yoonji, the ship's primary pilot. She looked barely 20 years old, with sharp features and eyes that seemed to track multiple things at once. How do you feel? Jisoo asked her. Yoonji smiled. It was a small smile, quick and fierce. Ready, Commander? Good. Jisoo placed a hand on the young pilot's shoulder. Show them what we can do. The 2 ships moved to the asteroid field, followed by Thren's 3 cruisers. The Radiant Promise stayed at a safe distance, its sensors recording everything for the Coalition archives. Daeho remained aboard the Baekdu at Jisoo's invitation. She wanted him to see this, she said. She wanted him to understand. He stood at the back of the command center, watching as the crew prepared for battle. There was no tension in their movements, no nervous chatter. They worked like parts of a single machine, each person knowing exactly what to do without being told. Chief Engineer Taiyang made final adjustments to the power systems. Weapons Officer Myri ran through targeting protocols. Navigation Specialist Hajun plotted escape routes and attack vectors with equal speed. And at the center of it all sat Yoonji, her eyes closed, her hands flat against the control interface. Thin cables connected from the console to ports at the base of her skull, linking her nervous system directly to the ship. Neural integration, Jisoo explained, seeing Daeho's startled expression. The ship becomes an extension of the pilot's body. She feels what it feels. She moves as it moves. The reaction time is faster than any manual control system could achieve. The communication system crackled. Baekdu, this is Admiral Thren. The exercise will begin on my mark. Simulation weapons are active. May the strongest prevail. We are ready, Jisoo replied. A countdown appeared on the main screen. 10 seconds. 9. 8. Daeho gripped the railing beside him, his knuckles white. The Krix cruisers had spread out, taking up positions that would allow them to catch the Baekdu in a crossfire. It was a standard formation, tested and proven across countless battles. 3, 2, 1. The Baekdu moved. Daeho had seen ships in combat before. He had watched training exercises and archived footage of actual battles. Nothing had prepared him for what he witnessed in the next 47 seconds. The Baekdu did not fly. It danced. It spun through the asteroid field like water flowing around stones, moving in directions that should have been impossible for a ship of its size. Yoonji's hands twitched against the controls, and the vessel responded instantly, rolling and diving with a grace that defied every law of physics Daeho knew. The Krix cruisers opened fire, their weapons tracking the Baekdu's position. But the human ship was never where they aimed. It was always somewhere else, already moving before the shots were fired. The simulation beams cut through empty space while the Baekdu wove between them untouched. Then it struck back. Weapons Officer Meirei worked her console with calm precision, her fingers dancing across the controls. The Baekdu's weapons fired in bursts of blue light that seemed to bend around obstacles, curving through the asteroid field to find their targets. The first Krix cruiser's shields flickered and died within 15 seconds. The killing blow registered on all sensors as the simulation declared it destroyed. 20-3 seconds. The second cruiser tried to retreat, its engines flaring at maximum power. The Baekdu was faster. It appeared beside the cruiser as if it had folded space to get there, and Marie's weapons hammered into its hull. Another kill registered. 30-8 seconds. The last cruiser, Tren's flagship, turned to fight. It was a brave choice, perhaps the only choice remaining. The Admiral's gunners fired everything they had, filling the space around the Baekdu with simulated death. None of it connected. Eung guided the ship through the barrage with her eyes still closed, seeing through the Baekdu sensors as clearly as if they were her own eyes. She brought the ship around in a tight spiral, presenting the smallest possible target while keeping the cruiser in their sights. 40-7 seconds. The simulation ended. All three Krix cruisers were marked as destroyed. The Baekdu had not taken a single hit. Silence filled the command center. Daeho realized he had been holding his breath and forced himself to exhale. His hands were shaking slightly. He had just witnessed something that would change everything the Coalition understood about warfare. The communication system crackled again. Admiral Thren's voice came through, and for the first time, Daeho heard something other than arrogance in it. He heard fear. How? The Admiral asked. How is that possible? Commander Jisoo stepped forward and activated the response channel. Her voice was calm, almost gentle, like a teacher explaining something to a struggling student. We have been at war for 600 years, Admiral. Every day, every hour, we fought for our survival against enemies far more dangerous than your cruisers. We learned to be fast because slow meant death. We learned to strike hard because hesitation meant extinction. We did not become this because we wanted to. We became this because there was no other way to live. She paused, letting her words sink in. This was a demonstration, not a real battle. In a real battle, your ships would have been destroyed, not disabled. Your crews would be dead, and you would be wondering in your final moments how everything went so wrong so quickly. Her voice hardened. That is what the Void Hunters will bring to Coalition space. That is what we came to warn you about. Now do you understand why we are afraid? The channel fell silent. Daeho watched the three Krix cruisers floating motionless in space, their simulation systems still showing the killing blows that had defeated them. In the distance, he could see the Radiant Promise, its crew no doubt staring at their screens in shock. The galaxy was about to change. Daeho could feel it in his bones. Whether it changed for the better or worse would depend on what happened next. And in his command cruiser, Admiral Thren was already composing a secret message to Krix High Command. His compound eyes reflected the red glow of the communication console as he made a decision that would have consequences for everyone. The Krix had ruled for 3,000 years. They would not be replaced by humans, no matter what horrors were coming from the void. The Void Hunter Vanguard arrived 2 weeks early. They came from the darkness between stars, their ships black as nightmares and shaped like no vessel any Coalition species had ever seen. Hundreds of them poured through the breach in space, their hulls absorbing the light around them until they looked like holes cut into reality itself. Behind them, still moving but visible now on long-range sensors, came the main fleet. Thousands upon thousands of ships, an armada that had consumed 17 civilizations, and would not stop until it had consumed everything. The Coalition defense line broke within minutes. Admiral Thren's betrayal had given the enemy every tactical advantage. They knew where the defensive stations were positioned. They knew which patrol routes the Coalition ships would take. They knew which sectors would be left unguarded during the shift changes. The first wave of Void Hunters struck with surgical precision, destroying command vessels and communications, arrays before the defenders could even respond. Captain Daeho, watched from the Baekdu's command center as the reports came flooding in. Ships destroyed. Stations overrun. Entire crews lost in the opening moments of a war they had not been prepared to fight. The coalition's mighty fleet, 3,000 years of military dominance, crumbled like paper in a fire. The Admiral's flagship is retreating, Communications Officer Yanwu reported. His voice was steady, but his face was pale. He is pulling back toward Crick space. He believes his deal with the Void Hunters will protect him. It will not, Commander Jisoo said. She stood at the center of the command deck, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Around her, the crew worked with the calm efficiency that came from 6 centuries of combat experience. The Void Hunters do not honor agreements. They consume everything. Thren was a fool to think otherwise. She turned to pilot Yoonji, who was already connecting her neural interface to the ship's systems. The young woman's eyes were closed, her breathing slow and deep as she merged her consciousness with the Baekdu sensors and engines. "Take us in," Jisoo ordered. Full combat protocol. The Baekdu surged forward, leaving the safety of the rear lines and diving straight toward the heart of the enemy formation. Daeho gripped the railing beside him, his stomach dropping as the ship accelerated faster than any vessel he had ever been aboard. "Commander," he said, "there are hundreds of them. Even with everything your ship can do, the numbers are impossible." Jisoo looked at him, and for the first time since he had met her, she smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a warrior who had finally found the battle she had been waiting for. "We have been waiting 600 years to bring this fight to them," she said. "Every battle we survived, every friend we lost, every generation that grew up knowing nothing but war, it all led to this moment. We did not come back to hide, Captain. We came back to show the galaxy what humanity can do when pushed to the edge." The Void Hunter ships filled the view screen, a swarm of darkness rushing to meet them. Their weapons fired, black beams of energy that destroyed everything they touched. Coalition vessels exploded around them, their shields useless against technology that had been perfected over millennia of conquest. The Baekdu did not slow down. Eunji's hands twitched against her controls, and the ship began to move in ways that defied understanding. It rolled and spun and danced through the enemy fire, never stopping, never presenting a target long enough for the Void Hunters to lock on. Chief Engineer Tai Yang routed power through systems that should have burned out under the strain, keeping the engines at maximum output while somehow maintaining the shields. And then, Weapons Officer Myray opened fire. The Baekdu's weapons were unlike anything in the Coalition arsenal. They fired beams of twisted light that seemed to fold through dimensions, striking targets that should have been protected by the densest armor. Void Hunter ships exploded one after another, their dark hulls cracking open to reveal the horrors within before everything was consumed by fire. Multiple kills confirmed, Heijin reported from navigation. Enemy formation is breaking apart. They were not expecting this level of resistance. "They never do," Jisoo replied. "Push deeper. Find their command ship." The Baekdu carved a path through the enemy fleet, leaving destruction in its wake. Daeho watched in amazement as this single ship, crewed by descendants of lost colonists, did what the entire Coalition Navy had failed to do. They were fighting back. They were winning, but the Void Hunters were not defeated yet. The command ship appeared from behind a cloud of debris, larger than anything Daeho had ever seen. It dwarfed even the Baekdu, a mountain of black metal and twisted organic material that pulsed with a sickly red light. Its weapons arrays turned toward them, charging with enough power to destroy a planet. "Enemy command vessel is targeting us," Yanwu announced. "Impact in 30 seconds. "Eunji," Jisoo said calmly. "Can you get us in close?" The young pilot did not open her eyes. Her lips curved into a fierce grin. "Watch me." The Baekdu shot forward, accelerating to speeds that should have torn the ship apart. The command vessel's weapons fired, massive beams of destruction that could have ended everything. Yunji wove between them with her eyes closed, seeing through the ship's sensors, feeling the enemy's targeting systems, and staying one step ahead. 20 seconds. They were closing fast. All weapons lock onto the command vessel's power core, Jisoo ordered. Mireille, I want everything we have ready to fire on my command. Ready, Mireille confirmed. Her fingers hovered over the firing controls, steady as stone. 10 seconds. The command vessel loomed before them, blocking out the stars. The Void Hunter commander's voice suddenly filled the communication system. It was not a voice meant for human ears, a grinding, scraping sound that seemed to claw at the inside of Daeho's skull. But beneath the alien tones, there was something recognizable. Fear. What are you? The creature demanded. You are not like the others. You should have been destroyed. What are you? Jisoo stepped forward and activated the response channel. Her voice was calm and cold, carrying across the void between them with perfect clarity. This is the Eve Spikedu. We are human. We are equipped. And we have been waiting 600 years to bring this fight to you. She nodded to Mireille. Fire. The Baekdu's weapons discharged in a single devastating burst, every system pouring its energy into one concentrated attack. The beam struck the command vessel's power core and tore through it like sunlight through shadow. For one frozen moment, the massive ship seemed to hang in space, its red lights flickering. Then it exploded. The blast wave spread outward, catching the nearest Void Hunter ships and destroying them in the chaos. The enemy formation fell apart as the remaining vessels turned to flee, their coordination broken with the loss of their command. Coalition ships that had been retreating stopped and turned back, seeing for the first time that these monsters could be killed. The battle was not over. The main fleet was still coming. But for this moment, in this place, humanity had one. In the aftermath, Captain Daeho stood with Commander Jisoo on the Baekdu's observation deck. Behind them, the crew was already repairing damage and preparing for the next engagement. Before them, the stars burned bright against the infinite darkness. There will be more battles, Jisoo said. Her voice was tired now, the weight of command settling back onto her shoulders. The Void Hunters do not stop. They will keep coming until we destroy them completely, or they destroy us. Then it is a good thing you came back, Daeho replied. Jisoo allowed herself a small smile, a real one this time. We never stopped being human, Captain. We just became the version of human that the universe required. Stronger, faster, harder. She paused, looking out at the distant lights of Coalition space. But also lonelier. 600 years without home, without family except for each other. That is a high price to pay. You have a home now, Daeho said. All of you. Whatever happens next, you are not alone anymore. Jisoo turned to look at him, and Daeho saw something in her eyes that he had not seen before. Hope, fragile and uncertain, but real. Perhaps that is worth fighting for too, she said. Behind them, the Baekdu hummed with power, its ancient hull scarred by 6 centuries of war, but still flying, still fighting. A ghost ship that had returned from the void to save the galaxy that had forgotten it existed. In the end, that was what humanity did. They endured. They adapted. They overcame. Not because it was easy, but because giving up was not in their nature. The war with the Void Hunters would continue. More battles would be fought. More lives would be lost. But for the first time in 600 years, the descendants of the Baekdu faced the darkness with allies at their side. And somewhere in Coalition Command, Admiral Thren was being dragged from his flagship in chains. His betrayal exposed, his power stripped away. The Krix hegemony would have to answer for his actions. The old order was crumbling. Something new was beginning. Humanity was equipped. And they were just getting started.